Today's message is from a very special guest, Dr. David Goldberg, and it was recorded June 23rd, 2019, and it's titled, Love is Always Healing, Affirming Love Enriches My Life in All Ways. And today we welcome back the world-class talent, voice, and spirit of Peggy Lebo, who can be found on her Facebook page or her website at peggylebo.com. And you can come visit us on our website at seasidecenter.org. And you can always join us in Encinitas, California on a Sunday sometime, where we always have great music, as you'll hear today, and a spirited message and a joyful, loving, vibrant community that await you.
It's a great day to be here because we have some incredible guests with us today. As you can see, I am going to introduce our fantastic musical guest artist. She's someone that I'm sure all of you recognize. She has been a beloved member of this community for many, many years, a truly incredibly talented singer, songwriter. Please give a big, warm seaside welcome for Peggy Lebo.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much. You guys are the best. I feel like when I come here, I feel like I'm home. So, this first song is inspired by a poem by Hafiz. And the poem is, when you are lonely and in darkness, I wish I could show you how brilliant your light is. It's called Shine. Your sun is sinking low and you feel the wind begin to blow, I will stand beside you. When your dreams seem so far and you don't remember who you are, I will remind you. 'Cause every sweet possibility lives inside of you and me, waiting there for us to turn the key. 'Cause we are shining, we are golden, we are light. It's in our hearts, it's in our souls, it's in our minds. We are shining, we are a beacon in the night. Let your soul illuminate the sky. When the day comes creeping in and you feel the world begin again, let grace rest inside you. There's no room for worry here, just let go of your fear and love will guide you. With every sweet possibility that lives inside of you and me, waiting there for us to turn the key. We are shining, we are golden, we are light. It's in our hearts, it's in our souls, it's in our minds. We are shining, we are a beacon in the night. Let your soul illuminate the sky.
That's Peggy, everybody. Wonderful. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker this morning. He is Reverend Dr. David S. Goldberg.
So when I was given today's topic, Love Always Heals, I almost immediately went to Valentine's Day. I tend to be a hopeful romantic. So I went there, and when I went there, it took me back to the 9th grade. And when I grew up, when I was going to school, that was the last year of junior high before we moved into high school. So we were the big people on campus, and we were running things, or so we thought. Excuse me, just getting the tail end of a cold here. And I happened to be the co-president of the student council. And each one of the student groups had the opportunity to run one of the big activities during the year. And the student council's challenge was to put on the Valentine's Day dance. So we had this great idea to get more of our colleagues there, to get more of our fellow students there and all of our friends. And we created a guerrilla marketing campaign way before we knew the term guerrilla marketing campaign. So all of my pals and I got to school really early on Monday of Valentine's week, and we plastered all over the school. We had flyers, and we had posters, and we had banners, and they were in classrooms, and they were on lockers, and they were in bathrooms, and yes, they were in the teacher's lounge. And so school is getting ready, and we're all feeling pretty good about ourselves. And before the announcements even started, we hear, "Will David Goldberg please report to the principal's office?" Well, I was president of the student council, so I wasn't concerned. So I went trotting in there and said hello to Mr. Tonish, and he called me Mr. Goldberg. I said, "Hi, Mr. T." He said, "Mr. Goldberg." And there were 3 or 4 teachers there as well. This isn't looking or feeling good. He said, he's looking at this flyer, and he looks up at me. "Mr. Goldberg, are you responsible for these?" I said, "Yes, sir. We're trying to promote the dance." He said, "While I appreciate the enthusiasm, while I appreciate what might be considered the expertise in marketing, I need you and your fellow students to go around the school and take down every one of these within the next hour." So that was kind of a mixed message, right? You're awesome. You're doing all the right stuff. And no. So I said, "Yes, sir." And he saw that I was a little confused. And so he was offering another point of clarification when he said, and he held it up and he showed it to me. And he said, "Mr. Goldberg, asking your fellow 7th, 8th, and 9th graders if they have VD fever is not appropriate." We said, "Do you have VD fever? Do you have Valentine's Day fever?" Now, I got to tell you, we didn't have the technology and everything that the young people of today have, but I'm pretty sure everybody knew what VD meant. And we were just trying to get people to the dance. So the good news is we had a great turnout at the dance, right? Being in public relations and communication for any number of years, say whatever you want about me as long as you spell my name right. So fast forward then to today, when we're talking about love is always healing. In the textbook, in our seminal text, The Science of Mind, Dr. Holmes mentions love 92 times, and that is quantified in the back of the book where we can cross-reference everything and where to find it in the book. And that does not include mentions of loved, lovely, lovers, loves, loving kindness, or beloved. So clearly love was on Ernest's mind. And then as I reflect on our theme as well, we know that a basic tenet of religious science is there's nothing to be healed, only truth to be revealed. So I'm kind of going back and forth, and what is the theme, and how are we presenting principle, and what does that look like? So with that, Dr. Holmes writes, the practitioner knows that the spiritual man needs no healing, but that he has yet but that this has not yet become revealed to his mind. What the healer does is to mentally uncover and reveal the truth of being, which is that God is in and through every human, and that this indwelling presence is already perfect. So nothing to be healed, only truth to be revealed. So to continue to muck up the waters and get me confused in my mind, on the other hand, the phrase, love is always healing, the topic of the talk today, is mentioned specifically on page 233 of the textbook. A thought of love is always healing, and particularly so in the case of constipation. So best I could tell, we have 92 mentions of love and only one mention of constipation. And thank you, Ernest, for, engaging in all of life's circumstances with us. So my point in sharing a bit of my confusion with you is I am so grateful to Dr. Christian for the invitation to stand at this storied platform in front of this beloved podium and speak with you today. And with that topic of love is always healing, I could pretty much do anything I want. But any of you who have been around any kind of church for any length of time know that ministers do that anyway. So away we go. And what a beautiful reading. Thank you, Catherine. You've learned well in your years and in your first year of practitioner training. We didn't speak directly about what I was going to address. And I love that your reading spoke to self-love, because we know that there are many different kinds of love. We know there is the love that we feel for our spouse and our partner, for those of us who are in a primary relationship. We know there's the love that we feel for our children, for our parents, for our family, for our extended family, for our family of choice. We know that the love that we feel for our animals, for our four-leggeds, for the winged ones, for the crawlies, we love them all. And we know that the love that we have for everyone on the planet, those are all different kinds of love. And they're all equally as important and equally powerful. And as was so beautifully pointed out, we know as metaphysicians that all starts with self-love. We know that I can't give what I don't have. We know that we can't give from an empty cup. So my invitation today is to share with you 7 practices, if you will, to invite you deeper into that space of self-love, deeper into that place of healing, and deeper into that place of opening your heart to be able to do what you are here to do as you co-create your physical walk with the divine. So if it works for you, you can tie these 7 practices, perhaps one for each day of the week. You can tie them to the chakras, perhaps one for each one of your chakras. However it works for you, however it flows. One of the many things I love about this teaching is there's no wrong way to do it. So jump in with me. So the first practice, and this is based loosely on the work of Deepak Chopra. Have any of you heard of him? It was a joy to be able to sit with him for a couple of hours, and for the story we did a couple of years ago in the magazine. What an extraordinary being. I digress. But this is based on Dr. Chopra's work. The first practice that I would suggest for you is that of forgiveness. We know that when we're holding on to something, when something is rubbing us the wrong way at best, right, and just has a hold of us and is turning us inside out at its worst, that it's not doing anything to that person that we're wound up about. And we're giving over the mental space. We're giving the emotional power to that. All of that is on us. So what does that forgiveness practice look like? I would suggest 3 different aspects of that. I forgive you. Please forgive me. I forgive myself. Please join me. I forgive you. Please forgive me. I forgive myself. Now, isn't that huge? So we release that energy, we dissipate it in ourselves, we dissipate it with the individual or the circumstance where we're having the alleged conflict. We send it back into the nothingness from which it came, and we have created more emptiness in our vessel to receive more good and to create more of what we want. And that's just step one. So step two is gratitude. And I know that you all have heard, as have I, that if I say no more than thank you, that's enough. That is enough to put us in that space, to put us in that energy, to put us in that flow of thankfulness and of gratitude. So for me, what that looks like is first thing in the morning and last thing at night. First thing in the morning in that beautiful space of kind of waking up and not ready to put my feet on the floor yet. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this day. I'm grateful to be a conscious being. I love my bed. Not that the hotel is horrible. And whatever is on your mind, whatever is in your heart, it simply allows you to get in that energy. And you all understand energy. So too, last thing at night. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for the good. Thank you for the interesting. Because it all has made me who I am and is preparing me as I continue to step in my greater yet to be tomorrow. So it is that attitude of gratitude. It is that space of thanksgiving. There's a reason why thanksgiving is one of the steps in our 5-step spiritual mind treatment or prayer treatment, because it's extraordinarily powerful. So we talked about forgiveness. We talked about gratitude. The third piece I would invite you into, and I know many of you are already there, is meditation. It's been said that when we treat or when we pray, we're asking, not necessarily beseeching, but we're asking for ourselves or we're asking on behalf of someone. We're praying for health. We're praying for prosperity. We're praying for perfect position. So oftentimes when we pray, we're asking. And when we meditate, we're quiet and we're in that space of listening. So if you've ever had that experience, I sense I'm not the only one in the room when I'm a little wound up and, well, why isn't God listening to my prayers? Well, I've been good. Well, I've been praying. Well, why isn't this happening? Well, and away I go. And then when I'm able to get into that meditative space, when I'm able to center and ground myself, I'm able to remember that perhaps it's not spirit, perhaps it's not God, perhaps it's not the universe that isn't responding. Perhaps it's not me not being quiet enough to listen to the answer. And to be clear, sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes the answer is not yet. And that is why in my treatment, in my prayer work, I always include this or something better with grace and with ease. And I had a conversation with one of my ministerial mentors. Dr. Christian served as my mentor in school, and I'm so grateful for that experience. And this conversation didn't happen with him, it happened with another mentor. This particular person had an issue with adding grace and ease to spiritual mind treatment or to prayer. He said, do you think you're powerful enough that you can direct spirit? And I had to be with that for a moment. And my response was, I don't think I'm saying it to direct spirit. I'm saying it to prepare my human mind, to put my human ego at ease, to say, I know God is going to bring that in the highest and best for me and all concerned. And I'm telling myself, however that arrives, whatever it looks like to my human eyes, that it's going to be graceful and it's going to be easy. So that's meditation. When you enter into that space, quiet enough to tap into the energy of the universe. You know that, right? You have access to the power of the universe. As a beloved late politician once said, not in relation to this, it's up to me to get my bloated nothingness out of the way and allow spirit to do whatever spirit is going to do with me. So we've talked about forgiveness. We've talked about gratitude. We've as we continue to work through the process, the fourth piece is, what is your purpose? What is your life purpose? And many of us in spiritual community have those conversations perhaps more frequently than some, whether we're looking at it for ourselves or whether we're looking at it on behalf of a client or somebody that we're working with or supporting in prayer work. And I would suggest to you, my friends, that your dharma, that your life purpose is exactly what you're doing right now. Be with that a moment. We know that as spiritual beings having a human experience, that we're here on purpose, that we're here for a unique expression. And while my human self may not know that, the divine knows that every moment of every day. So you wouldn't be doing anything that you're not called to do. That doesn't mean that in your co-creating your experience with the divine, that you can't be more of this tomorrow, that you can't release and be less of that. But you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. So maybe it's more nuanced than we're taking credit for. Maybe it's not changing 180 degrees from a right brain occupation to a left brain occupation. Maybe it's a 3-degree shift because that still changes our trajectory dramatically. So be gentle with yourself as you explore that process of what is your life purpose and what is yours to do. And to that point of being with ourselves, the fifth item that I would suggest to you is be gentle with your self-talk. If you're saying, and don't look at me like that, you all talk to yourselves. If you're saying something to yourself that you wouldn't say to your beloved, that you wouldn't say to your grandchild, that you wouldn't say to your pet, that you wouldn't say to a complete stranger, then stop saying it to yourself, because we spend the most time with ourselves. And the way that appears for me is when my ego is out there and my ego doesn't like something that I did, or I know I could do it better, or I know I could do it differently, or want. It's like, oh, geez, David. And sometimes it's a little more colorful. And I would never do that to my nieces, to my nephews, to my great nieces, to newborn Charlie. I wouldn't say that to them. Why do I get to say that to myself? Because what I know as a spiritual being having a human experience, that one power, that one presence, that one ubiquitous, all-encompassing power that created me continues to dwell in me and express as me. So when I'm putting myself down, I'm putting God down. And that's not who I am. That's not how I choose to show up. So what we know is change your thinking, change your life. And as a part of that, we also know change your language, change your self-talk, change your life. So the sixth piece of that, in addition to talking to ourselves more powerfully and more positively, is how are we spending our time? You know, recent studies are showing that somewhere between 65 and 70% of us have a challenge when we get together with family, whether it's a holiday event or a wedding or a funeral or whenever we get together with blood family. So if you have that interesting Uncle David, you're not the only one. But the point is, we are always at choice. So when you're not in those familial situations, how are you choosing to spend your time? Who are you choosing to spend your time with? I shared earlier that when I was in prac class, we had a big group of people, and this one woman always sat down right next to me. And it was fine, and she was kind, and we prayed, and we did projects, and we did dyads, and we did everything we were supposed to do. And she later said, David, I wouldn't have made it through practitioner training without you. I said, well, Joanne, that's really kind, but I don't understand. We all did this together. She said, no, some days, maybe more than I'd like to admit, when I got to class, I just really wasn't feeling very spiritual. And frankly, I didn't want to, necessarily be there. I'd rather be doing something else. So I sat by you and I plugged into your energy. And I'm like, oh, No wonder I was tired for 2 years. So I share that with you by way of who are you consciously choosing to spend your time with? Are you consciously spending time with people who are vibrating at the same level you are, thus creating the harmonic convergence, right? Like attracts like. Or is it more of a moth to the flame scenario where you're vibrating up here and some other interesting beings see that and feel that and they want some of what you have, but they're not exactly sure how to get it and it doesn't feel really good for anybody. So how are you spending your time? How are you choosing to give your time away? And just to build on that then, the final piece of that is volunteering. You are all here because you're on a spiritual path. You are all here because you are givers. You give to your family, you give to your loved ones, you give to strangers. You give up to and including everybody on the planet in one degree or another. For that, I am grateful. You are my people. You are my tribe. We are all in this together. And the whole point of volunteering is forming a mutually beneficial relationship. So you don't get extra karma points if it hurts, or if you're in pain, or if you don't like it. Do something that you love. Do something that makes your soul soar. Do something that makes your energy dance. If you like being with people in community, Seaside is glorious. It wouldn't be able to do nearly the work that they do without volunteers. Volunteer in this amazing place. If that's not your gig, sit with the person in silence. Go to the shelter and hold an animal for an hour a week. Find something that feeds your soul, and that raises the vibration for everyone and everything on the planet. So those are the 7 practices that I would share with you, that I would invite you into. Look at them all. Look at one of them. Look at a handful of them. Whatever speaks to you, because you are here, and I invite you to take exactly what you need from those 7 pieces. And as we look at that, as we look at how we show up, once again, as spiritual beings having this human experiences, we have 3 choices. And I invite you to consider to move through all of those areas, all of those opportunities with TLC. And the TLC in this case is we have the opportunity to take it, we have the opportunity to leave it, or we have the opportunity to change it. Those are basically the 3 categories of our choice. So if you decide to take it, you get to consciously be in that space of, I am clear what is happening here. I don't like all of it. And I know that the pros outweigh the cons, and that it's supporting me to getting me where I want to be tomorrow, next week, next year, whatever that looks like. I am safe in this expression, and I am consciously deciding to take it. And as I reflect on that, I think about Mother Teresa now Saint Teresa, from her life story. When she was talking about, she was 19, she got the call to be of service originally when she was 12. She's 19, a brand new nun, in her words, sitting in the squalor of the streets of Calcutta, India, in the soaking rain, crying. She had just been invited by the Mother Superior to go back to the convent to move into the managerial ranks in the convent. Now, to be sure, it wasn't a 4 seasons, but she had a roof over her head, she had a bed, and she had running water, none of which she had when she was working in the streets. She's 19, she's having a crisis of faith, she's sitting in the rain, she's crying, and she said, "What is mine to do?" She completely surrendered. What is mine to do? And the message that she got was the same message that she always got, and that was, yours is to be of service. And so she knew. So she made the choice to take it. She could handle the conditions. She could handle the squalor. She was clear on what was hers to do. When she died, at the end of her life, There were 4,500 convents under the order that she created. I would suggest to you that that 19-year-old woman didn't have a concept of creating an entire branch within the Catholic Church of service. She was doing what was hers to do, and she decided to stay. She decided to take it. The other option is to leave it. You look at it, you feel into it, you think about it on every level. You know that this isn't serving you, whatever it is. So you get to decide to leave. So I had the great honor of working with an octogenarian who I had known through several incarnations professionally. And I showed up as her family called, and she had decided that she was going to leave the planet, that her biodegradable flesh suit was no longer serving her, and that she was complete, and she thought that her last civil right was deciding when she was done with this physical walk. So anyway, long story short, I walk in, I'm visiting with her, and I said, so how are you and what are you doing? We have 5 minutes of small talk. And she said, so I hear you're a minister now. And I said, well, yeah, that has been a pretty significant life switch for me. And I said, and that's why I'm here. How can I support you? My best ministerial self. And she said, you can't. I'm going to off myself. Okay. And I said, so what does that look like? And we started to have a conversation. And I said, how do you want to be remembered? And then the tears came. And she said, I want to be remembered as a teacher. And I want to be remembered as somebody who cared. And so she got the cocktail. She had full makeup. She was dressed in exactly what she wanted to wear. With the loving support of her family, she took her cocktail at the pre-described time, and she made her transition beautifully and peacefully, exactly the way that she wanted to. And when I did her memorial a week later, she was remembered for her kindness and for being a teacher. And so she chose to leave. So we can take it, we can leave it, or we can change it. And as I shared in the earlier service, I had a different example that I was going to share with you around the change it piece. But in watching the news this morning, something just struck me so dramatically and so deeply. Some of you may have seen this. There's an entrepreneur who has developed lockdown lavatories. And these are portable toilets for classrooms. So when teachers and students find themselves in a lockdown situation, they have a way to relieve themselves. It would be really funny if it wasn't so sad that we have to prepare for that condition. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And so the idea is, while other people, hopefully many of us, are working on a solution to that extraordinary circumstance, this person is trying to change it from within. We know it's going to happen again. Let's do what we can to traumatize everybody involved as little as possible by taking care of some basic bodily needs. That is changing it. So as you engage then in this coming week and beyond, as you move into your life with more TLC, just know that you always have choice. You can take it, you can leave it, or you can change it. And in that regard, I have one more thing to share with you from Ernest Holmes. He says that hope is a subtle illusion and principle is not bound by precedent. So regardless of what we may have done before, principle always outweighs precedent. At one point, slavery was legal. At one point, women were not allowed to vote. Just because we did it doesn't mean we have to keep doing it. So to that point, Ernest writes, because we fail to realize that principle is not bound by precedent, we limit our faith to that which has already been accomplished, and few miracles result. When, through intuition, faith finds its proper place under divine law, there are no limitations, and what are called miraculous results follow. So I wanted to share with you that Rick and I had been together for about 3 years, and we knew that we wanted to spend the rest of our lives together. And we went to Massachusetts to visit his mom and his dad for what would be our last visit. They were both 89 and living in the nursing home together, and they were still an awesome team. Mom's mind was so sharp and so in place, and her physical body wasn't where she wanted it to be. And Dad was a strong ox and a retired Navy guy, and he was on top of everything, and his cognitive skills weren't what he wanted them to be. So together, as often happens in long-term relationship, they compensated and they were beautiful together. So, I showed up and doing what I knew how to do. I brought them gifts, and they living in Boston, they're huge Boston Patriots fans. And I have to tell you, it took about everything in my being for this Denver Broncos guy to buy Boston Patriots jerseys. But I did. And so Mom and Dad got their jerseys and they're wearing them. And then as a part of the natural flow of the conversation, I asked for their permission to marry their son. And Dad says, he stands up, he comes over and he shakes my hand and he said, "You make my son happy, you make me happy." And Mom, bless her heart, couldn't quite get up, and she just leaned forward and kissed me on the cheek, a tear running down hers, and she just shook her head yes. So I had his parents' blessing and permission for us to get married. And as the conversation continued, just a few minutes later, with her tongue planted firmly in her cheek, Rick's 89-year-old mother says, "Honey, I'm so happy for you. You're marrying a Jewish doctor." So our response was the same as yours, when we quit chuckling. And he said, "Well, thanks, Mom, but he's not that kind of Jew, and he's not that kind of doctor." And indeed, I do believe I'm the only Goldberg who's a member of the Bacon of the Month Club. What I do know is love is that one power, that one presence. It is that one energy, however identified, whatever we call it. It is all of who I am. It is all of who you are. It is all we have to give. So when we take that opportunity to work on loving ourselves, then we can go forth and offer that powerful, powerful tool to everyone on the planet. Thank you for your time.
That's even better the second time. Thank you. It's in the beating of our hearts. It is the rhythm of change. Rising up from the ashes we stand for love and we won't back down. When we shine the light, gonna turn it all around. And we know, yes we know, the one true thing is love, only love. The one true thing is love, only love. For every heart and every soul, it is the way back home. 'Cause the one true thing is love. From now on, wanna live in the moment, possibility. Let's let go of the old stories for a chance at something real, something good, something true. Something real, something good, something true. Oh. When we stand for love and we won't back down, when we shine the light, gonna turn it all around. When we know, yes we know, the one true thing is love, only love. The one true thing is love, only love. For every heart and every soul, it is the way back home, home. 'Cause the one true thing, the one true thing, the one true thing is
Thank you, Peggy, and welcome home. It's always a pleasure to have you here.